The dust-laden wind carried the whispers across Silver Creek as Rosalie Parker clutched her 6-month-old daughter tighter to her chest, her wedding dress billowing behind her like a tattered flag of surrender. It was 1875, and the Colorado Territory was unforgiving to a woman alone, especially one who dared to marry with a child already in her arms. "Shameful," muttered Mrs. Holloway, the general store owner's wife, loud enough for Rosalie to hear as she passed. "Coming to the church with that baby as if we wouldn't notice." Rosalie kept her chin high, though her cheeks burned with humiliation. The ceremony had been small, just her, the preacher, and her intended. But word had spread quickly in Silver Creek, and a crowd had gathered outside the church, their judgment heavier than the silver cross hanging from the steeple. Her intended never showed. Now she walked back to her small rented room above the laundry where she worked, the wedding dress she'd saved for months to buy collecting dirt at the hem. Little Emma fussed in her arms, sensing her mother's distress. "Hush now, sweet girl," Rosalie whispered, bouncing Emma gently. "We don't need anyone, we never have." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. She had needed someone, had believed Thomas when he said he loved both her and Emma, had believed him when he proposed marriage despite the scandal of her being an unwed mother. But Thomas had fled town the night before, leaving only a hastily scribbled note. "I can't be a father to another man's child." As she rounded the corner to the laundry, a tall figure leaned against the hitching post, hat tipped low. Rosalie clutched Emma closer, prepared to hurry past. "Miss Parker," the deep voice stopped her. She turned, wary. The man pushed his hat back, revealing a weathered face with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. She recognized him as Wyatt Sutton, one of the hands from the Double S ranch outside town. "Mr. Sutton," she acknowledged stiffly, embarrassment making her voice sharp. "If you've come to gawk at the jilted bride, you've had your look," he straightened, his expression serious. "I came to offer you a ride home. It's a hot day to be walking in that dress with a baby." "This is my home," she said, gesturing to the laundry, "and I've managed just fine on my own." "I know you have," he said softly. "That's why I'm here." Rosalie frowned, confused. "I don't understand. May I speak plainly, Miss Parker?" When she nodded, he continued, "I need a wife. My sister died of fever last month, leaving me with her ranch to run alongside my own duties at the Double S. I can't manage it all and tend to her affairs in town. And you thought a desperate woman with a baby would take any offer?" Rosalie's voice shook with indignation. Wyatt's face flushed. "No, madam. I thought a strong woman who's proven she can handle hardship might consider a practical arrangement. I've watched how you care for your daughter while working sunup to sundown. That takes grit." Emma began to fuss again, and Rosalie shifted her to her other arm. "Mr. Sutton, I appreciate your unusual approach, but I've had my fill of men making promises." "No promises beyond what I can keep," he said, removing his hat. "A home for you and Emma, protection of my name, and I'll be a father to her in truth, not just in word." "You don't even know me," Rosalie protested. "I know enough," he said simply. "The rest we can learn." Before she could respond, the laundry door swung open and Mrs. Bryant, her employer, stepped out, arms crossed over her ample bosom. "Rosalie, if you're still looking to work here, I need those linens done by nightfall." Her eyes narrowed at Wyatt. "Though maybe you won't be needing that job anymore. She'll be leaving your employment, madam," Wyatt said before Rosalie could speak. "Miss Parker has agreed to become Mrs. Sutton." "I have done no such," Rosalie began, but Wyatt interrupted with a whisper. "You can refuse me once we're away from prying ears, but let me at least get you away from this." Rosalie looked at Mrs. Bryant's smug face, then at Emma, whose future in this town had just been sealed by her mother's humiliation. "What choice did she have? I'll collect my things," she said quietly. Within the hour, Rosalie found herself in Wyatt's wagon, Emma sleeping in a makeshift bed of blankets beside her, heading toward the Double S ranch. Her few possessions were packed in a single trunk, her wedding dress folded away, perhaps never to be worn again. "I won't hold you to anything," Wyatt said as they left town behind. "If you want to leave after seeing the place, I'll bring you to the next town over where no one knows your story." "Why are you doing this?" Rosalie asked. Truly, Wyatt kept his eyes on the trail ahead. My sister had a saying, the heart knows what it wants before the head catches up. When I saw you walking out of that church today, head high despite everyone's talk, something in me knew. Knew what? That you were the kind of woman I'd be proud to call my wife. He glanced at her. But I understand if you need time. Time, Rosalie repeated softly. Yes, I'll need that. They rode in silence for a while, the rhythmic creak of the wagon wheels and the distant call of meadowlarks the only sounds. Emma slept peacefully, unaware of how her world was changing. She's beautiful, Wyatt said, nodding toward the baby. How old? 6 months, Rosalie answered. Her father was a railroad worker passing through. He made promises too. Wyatt nodded, asking no more on the subject. My sister's place is about 3 miles from the main house at Double S. It's modest but solid. She kept a garden, chickens too. You said you work at Double S. Yeah, foreman for Mr. Saunders. Good man, fair employer. He's letting me keep my position while I sort out my sister's place. Eventually, I aim to buy my own spread. As they crested a hill, the landscape opened up before them, rolling pastures, stands of aspen, and in the distance, the silhouette of mountains against the sky. Rosalie had never been this far from town, and the vastness of it stole her breath. It's beautiful, she whispered. This is Double S land, Wyatt explained. My sister's place, well, it could be our place, is just beyond that copse of trees. When they finally arrived, Rosalie was surprised by the charm of the small ranch house. It was indeed modest, just 4 rooms, but it had a covered porch with a swing, flowering bushes along the walkway, and a view of the creek that gave Silver Creek its name. I've been keeping it up best I can, Wyatt said, sounding almost apologetic as he helped her down from the wagon. My sister would haunt me if I let her roses die. Inside, the house was clean but clearly a bachelor's attempt at homemaking. The furniture was simple but good quality, and there were feminine touches: embroidered cushions, curtains with a delicate pattern, a collection of books on a small shelf. There's a bedroom for you and Emma, Wyatt said, showing her a room with a bed covered in a handmade quilt. I've been sleeping in the barn when I stay over. I'll continue to do so until whatever you decide. Emma had awakened and was beginning to fuss. Rosalie bounced her gently, looking around at what could be her new home. Mr. Sutton, Wyatt, please. Wyatt, she corrected herself. I appreciate everything you're offering, but I don't want charity. It's not charity I'm offering, Rosalie, he said, her name sounding different in his deep voice. It's partnership. I need someone to help me run this place to make it a home again. In return, you get security and a fresh start. If more develops between us, well, that would be a blessing. If not, we can still have a good life here. Emma began to cry in earnest now, and Rosalie recognized the hungry wail. I need to feed her. Of course, Wyatt said, moving toward the door. I'll bring in your trunk and then see to the horses. Take all the time you need. After he left, Rosalie sat in a rocking chair by the window, nursing Emma and contemplating the strange turn her day had taken. That morning, she had been preparing to marry a man she thought she loved. Now, she was considering a marriage of convenience with a man she barely knew. Yet there was something about Wyatt Sutton that inspired trust. Perhaps it was the gentle way he spoke of his sister, or how he looked at Emma with kindness rather than judgment. Or maybe it was simply that, for the first time since she'd found herself alone and pregnant, someone was offering her a choice rather than charity or scorn. By the time Wyatt returned, Rosalie had made her decision. I'll stay, she said as he entered, on one condition. Name it, he replied, setting her trunk down. We get married properly, not just an arrangement, but a real marriage, even if it starts as one of convenience. Emma deserves a real family, not just the appearance of one. Wyatt's face softened. I was hoping you'd say that. I've already spoken to Reverend Miller. He's willing to come out here tomorrow if that suits you. Tomorrow, Rosalie's eyes widened. That's very soon. Life's too short for long engagements, Wyatt said with a small smile, but we can wait if you'd prefer. Rosalie thought of the town, of Mrs. Bryant and Mrs. Holloway and all the others who had whispered behind her back. No, she decided. Tomorrow is fine. And so it was that the next day, Rosalie Parker became Rosalie Sutton in a simple ceremony on the porch of what was now her home. She wore a blue dress that had belonged to Wyatt's sister, altered hastily the night before, and held Emma in her arms as she spoke her vows. Reverend Miller brought his wife, who served as witness, and if either of them found the situation unusual, they kept their thoughts to themselves. After they left, Wyatt and Rosalie stood awkwardly in the main room of their home, the reality of their arrangement settling over them. "I should get back to work," Wyatt said, reaching for his hat. "Mr. Saunders is expecting me. I'll be back for supper." "I'll have something ready," Rosalie promised, surprising herself with how domestic the words sounded. After he left, she explored her new home more thoroughly, finding a well-stocked pantry and a small cellar with preserved foods. Wyatt's sister had been an organized woman, it seemed, with labeled jars of vegetables and fruits. In the small second bedroom, she found a cradle that Wyatt must have brought in while she slept. It was beautifully crafted, with carved details along the sides. "Did you make this?" she asked when he returned that evening. "Started it when I first had the idea to ask you," he admitted, a flush creeping up his neck. "Finished it last night, hoped it might help convince you to stay." "It's beautiful," Rosalie said softly, touched by the gesture. "Emma will love it." That night, Wyatt kept his word and slept in the barn, giving Rosalie and Emma the main bedroom. As she lay in the unfamiliar bed, listening to her daughter's soft breathing, Rosalie wondered if she had made the right decision. But when she thought of the alternative, returning to the whispers and judgment, struggling to provide for Emma on a laundress's wages, she knew this chance was worth taking. The days turned into weeks, and slowly they established a routine. Wyatt would leave early for his work at Double S, returning in time for the evening meal. Rosalie tended the garden, looked after the chickens, and kept the house. They ate together, talking about their days and gradually learning about each other's pasts. Rosalie learned that Wyatt had been raised by his sister after their parents died in a fever epidemic. He had worked cattle since he was 12, saving every penny toward his dream of owning land. His sister's death had been unexpected and devastating. She was the only family he had left. In turn, she told him about growing up in St. Louis, coming west with her father after her mother died, and losing him to a mining accident. She had taken work at the hotel in Silver Creek, where she met Emma's father, a charming railroad man who promised to return for her but never did. "I was naive," she admitted one evening as they sat on the porch swing, Emma sleeping inside. "I believed every word he said." "That doesn't make what happened your fault," Wyatt said firmly, "and it gave you Emma." "Yes," Rosalie smiled, glancing toward the open window where the cradle was visible. "She's worth everything I've been through." As June turned to July and July to August, the initial awkwardness between them began to fade. Wyatt no longer slept in the barn but took the small second bedroom, now that Emma had been moved into a corner of Rosalie's room. They were building a friendship, perhaps even the foundation for something more, though neither spoke of it directly. Then came the invitation to the Founders' Day celebration in Silver Creek. "We don't have to go," Wyatt said when he brought the news home. "I know it might be difficult for you to face those people again." Rosalie's hands stilled on the dish she was drying. "What did you tell Mr. Saunders?" "That I'd discuss it with my wife," Wyatt replied. "He expects all the hands to attend with their families, but he'd understand if we declined." The word family caught Rosalie's attention. That's what they were becoming, wasn't it? A family, strange and unexpected, but real nonetheless. "No," she said, squaring her shoulders. "We should go. I won't hide from them anymore." The day of the celebration dawned clear and bright. Rosalie dressed in her best, a green dress she had altered from one of Wyatt's sisters, and put Emma in a new white gown she had sewn from flour sacks. Wyatt, too, had made an effort, wearing a clean shirt and his good boots, his usually unruly hair slicked back. "You look beautiful," he said when she emerged from the bedroom with Emma. The sincerity in his voice made her blush. "Thank you," she replied. "You look quite handsome yourself." The ride to town was filled with a nervous energy. Rosalie had not been back to Silver Creek since the day Wyatt had taken her away, and she dreaded facing the town's judgment again. But now she had Wyatt beside her, and the gold band on her finger gave her a legitimacy she hadn't possessed before. The town square was decorated with bunting and flags, tables laden with food, and a band playing lively tunes. As they arrived, Rosalie felt the weight of curious stares. Wyatt must have sensed her tension, for he placed a reassuring hand on the small of her back. "Mrs. Sutton," Mr. Saunders greeted them, a jovial man with a booming voice. "So pleased you could join us, and this must be little Emma." His genuine welcome set the tone, and soon they were surrounded by the other ranch hands and their wives, all curious about Wyatt's new family but polite in their inquiries. Rosalie began to relax, especially when several of the women complimented Emma and asked about life on the small ranch. But then she saw Mrs. Holloway approaching, the same woman who had called her shameful on her failed wedding day. Rosalie stiffened, but Wyatt's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "Mrs. Sutton," Mrs. Holloway said, her voice syrupy sweet. "What a surprise to see you here and with your family." The pause before the word family was subtle but unmistakable. Wyatt's grip tightened on Rosalie's hand. "Yes, my family," Rosalie replied steadily. "My husband and my daughter." "How fortunate for you to have found a man willing to take on another man's child," Mrs. Holloway said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Though I suppose some men are more forgiving than others." Before Rosalie could respond, Wyatt stepped forward, his expression calm but his eyes hard. "Forgiveness implies wrongdoing, Mrs. Holloway," he said. "There's nothing to forgive, I'm the fortunate one. When I married Rosalie, I wanted one heart to join with mine. Instead, I got two. Emma's as much mine now as if she carried my blood." Mrs. Holloway's smile faltered. "Well, if you'll excuse us," Wyatt continued, "I'd like to dance with my wife." He led Rosalie away, Emma still in her arms, toward the area where couples were dancing to the band's music. Only when they were out of earshot did Rosalie let out the breath she'd been holding. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" Wyatt asked, genuinely puzzled. "For defending us, for claiming Emma as yours." Wyatt stopped, turning to face her fully. "I meant every word, Rosalie. I love that little girl as if she were my own. And he hesitated, then seemed to gather his courage. "I love her mother too." Rosalie's heart skipped a beat. "Wyatt, you don't have to say anything," he hurried on. "I know our arrangement started as practical, and if you don't feel the same, I understand. But these past months watching you with Emma, seeing your strength and kindness, I couldn't help falling in love with you." Tears welled in Rosalie's eyes. "I love you too," she admitted. "I've been afraid to say it, afraid to trust again, but it's true." Wyatt's face broke into a radiant smile. He leaned forward, hesitating just a moment before pressing his lips to hers in a gentle kiss there first. It was brief, mindful of the public setting and the baby between them, but it sealed a promise more binding than their hastily spoken vows had been. As they pulled apart, Rosalie noticed the stares of the townspeople, some disapproving, others curious. Mrs. Bryant, her former employer, was among them, her expression sour. "They're still judging us," Rosalie murmured. "Let them," Wyatt replied, taking Emma from her arms. "May I have this dance with my daughter while my beautiful wife rests her arms?" And there, in the middle of Silver Creek's Founders' Day celebration, Wyatt Sutton danced with a 6-month-old baby in his arms, his face alight with joy, while his wife watched with tears of happiness in her eyes. The whispers continued, of course. Mrs. Holloway made sure of that. "Did you hear? Sutton claims that baby as his own now. She trapped him, mark my words. Shameless, the both of them. But for every whisper of judgment, there was a moment of kindness." Mr. Saunders clapped Wyatt on the shoulder and told him he'd never seen a man take to fatherhood so naturally. The blacksmith's wife offered Rosalie recipes for when Emma started on solid foods. And the new schoolteacher, recently arrived from Denver, invited Rosalie to join the Ladies' Aid Society. As the sun began to set and the celebration wound down, Wyatt found Rosalie sitting with some of the ranch wives, Emma sleeping against her shoulder, ready to head home. He asked, offering his hand. "Yes," she said, taking it and rising. "Let's go home." The journey back was quiet, both of them tired but content. Emma slept in Rosalie's arms, occasionally making the soft sounds that never failed to make Wyatt smile. As they approached the small ranch house, their home, Rosalie broke the comfortable silence. "I was thinking," she said, "that perhaps you might move your things into the main bedroom if you wanted to." Wyatt glanced at her, his expression hopeful. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Rosalie said simply. "It's time." That night, after Emma was settled in her cradle, Wyatt and Rosalie stood awkwardly in their bedroom, truly theirs now. Despite the love they had declared, this step felt momentous. "We can go slowly," Wyatt assured her, sensing her nervousness. "I'm not expecting anything." Rosalie reached for his hand. "I want to be your wife in every way, Wyatt, but yes, slowly would be good." He kissed her then, a deeper kiss than the one they had shared in town, a kiss that spoke of the love that had grown between them over the summer months. When they parted, both were breathless. "I never thought I'd find this," Rosalie confessed. "After everything that happened, I thought love wasn't meant for me." "I felt the same," Wyatt admitted. "After my sister died, I was so alone. Then I saw you that day, standing so brave despite everything. And something in me knew you were the one I'd been waiting for without even knowing I was waiting." They slept that night as husband and wife, Rosalie's head on Wyatt's chest, his arm around her, the sound of Emma's soft breathing a gentle reminder of the family they had become. Winter came to Colorado, bringing snow that blanketed the ranch in white. The small house was warm and cozy, filled with the scents of Rosalie's cooking and the sounds of Emma's growing vocabulary, mama and dada among her first words, much to Wyatt's delight. In January, Mr. Saunders offered Wyatt the chance to buy a parcel of land adjacent to the small ranch, 80 acres with good water access. It would mean years of hard work and careful saving, but it was a step toward the dream Wyatt had held for so long. "What do you think?" He asked Rosalie that night. "It would be tight for a while, we'd have to be careful with every penny." "I think it's perfect," she replied without hesitation. "This is our home now, and it should be truly ours." As winter gave way to spring, Emma took her first steps across the kitchen floor, lurching from Rosalie's arms to Wyatt's waiting hands. They celebrated with apple pie and plans for the future, a bigger garden, perhaps a cow of their own, maybe even an addition to the house. And when summer came again, bringing with it the anniversary of their hasty wedding, Rosalie had news of her own to share. "Wyatt," she said one evening as they sat on the porch swing, Emma playing with wooden blocks at their feet, "I think our family is about to grow again." His eyes widened, then filled with joy as her meaning sank in. "A baby, are you sure?" "As sure as I can be," she nodded, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. "Come December, Emma will be a big sister." Wyatt gathered her in his arms, his voice thick with emotion. "I love you, Rosalie Sutton, you and Emma and this new little one. I never imagined I could be this happy." "Nor I," she admitted, leaning her head against his shoulder. "When you found me that day, I was at my lowest. I never thought I would trust a man again, let alone love one. And now I know that sometimes the heart recognizes what it needs, even when the head is still afraid to believe." The Founders' Day celebration came around again, and this time Rosalie attended with her head high, her husband proud beside her, and her daughter now walking and chattering, holding both their hands. Her condition was not yet obvious, but the glow of impending motherhood was unmistakable to those who looked closely. Mrs. Holloway was there, of course, still ready with her judgments. But this time, when she approached with her syrupy smile, Rosalie spoke first. "Mrs. Holloway, how lovely to see you. Have you met my daughter, Emma? She's nearly 18 months now." The older woman's smile tightened. "Yes, I believe I recall the child, Emma," Wyatt said, crouching down to the toddler's level. "Can you show Mrs. Holloway how many hearts are in our family?" Emma, well rehearsed in this game, held up 3 chubby fingers. 3 hearts," she announced proudly. "That's right," Wyatt beamed, standing and placing his arm around Rosalie, "and soon to be 4. Mrs. Holloway's eyes widened slightly as she glanced at Rosalie's midsection. "Well," she said stiffly, "congratulations." As she walked away, Rosalie turned to Wyatt with a smile. "That felt good. You're amazing," he said, kissing her forehead. And I meant what I told Emma, 3 hearts that became 4. The best decision I ever made was asking you to marry me that day. The best decision I ever made was saying yes, Rosalie replied, watching as Emma toddled toward a group of children playing nearby. Even though it started as an arrangement. Some arrangements, Wyatt said, his hand finding hers, turn out to be destiny in disguise. And as they stood together under the summer sky, surrounded by the community that had once judged them but now largely accepted them, Rosalie knew it was true. The path that had brought her here with all its pain and struggle had led her exactly where she was meant to be. Loved, cherished, and complete.